Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode. In this video, I want to go over how capitalism created video games. I'm always kind of really surprised when so many people don't seem to understand how capitalism works or how it's being criticized, particularly by millennials, people wearing Che Guevara shirts and that kind of thing. So I just kind of want to show how it can actually be quite positive and how it actually works. Now, as far as video games go, one of the first video games that was created was called Space War, and it was created in 1962 by a man named Steve Russell. And at that time, there were no personal computers. At best, you had what were called mini computers, what you could find in universities and other very large organizations. So the Space War game was actually created on what was called the PDP-1. And the PDP-1 was just a massive computer that at that time cost $120,000, but that is worth close to $1 million today. So although the game itself was very popular, very few people could play it, because who can afford or have the space for this big of a computer? Now, this is where Nolan Bushnell kind of enters the picture, and he worked in the arcades at that time, and in which all the games were mechanical, and he knew that people like to spend 25 cents to play a fun game of some kind, and he was convinced that if he could get a video game into an arcade, it would be a huge hit. However, looking at the PDP-1 and Space War, he knew that this wasn't possible, and this is what the price system of capitalism was telling him. He knew that the PDP-1 was so expensive, there's no way you can make the money back charging 25 cents a go. I mean, the economics just didn't work out. And this is one of the big things that capitalism does. It's not the biggest thing. It lets you evaluate how limited resources can be used. So, because we don't live in a world of infinite resources, there's only so much energy, so much materials, etc., etc. So, paying $120,000 for a PDP-1 to create a 25-cent video game didn't make any sense. Now, two other entrepreneurs, Bill Pitts and Hugh Tuck, they actually tried to create a commercial video game, and they tried it using the cheaper PDP-11, which was only $20,000 by charging 10 cents. And what they did was, I can't remember which university it was, but they set up the PDP-11 in another room, had wires coming in to a different room, and there you could pay 10 cents to play a version of Space War. This was actually very popular. All the kids who were playing it really liked it. It was very new and it was fun. But once again, the price system is telling you that you're not going to make money paying $20,000 for a PDP-11 and then only charging 10 cents. And Nolan Bushnell saw this, and he knew that right away. And that's how an entrepreneur thinks, is how can I create something for the masses that everyone can enjoy for a reasonable price, or for a price that they're willing to pay. I mean, if you were to make a go of it with the PDP-11, you might have to charge like $10 a play, or perhaps over time, and people just wouldn't pay that. So he was constantly focused on making the actual machine cheaper. And what he wound up doing was he created basically a stripped down version of the Space War game. He kind of made it simpler, and he found that you could use, if you only used hardware circuits, so it's not a program computer like the PDP-1 was. It was all done with circuits, which is in some ways, in a technology sense, a step backwards. But he was able to create a much more economic machine. What this game turned out to be is he called it computer space, and for that he was able to sell them make a profit by selling them for $1,000 a machine. So for anybody who bought this, they would make a profit on it after only 4,000 plays. And it wasn't a huge hit because once again the game was actually quite complicated for its time. It was actually way ahead of its time as far as arcade games go. Although, again, it was the first one. So, but nonetheless, this gave him a bit of money so he could create another machine, and also showed him once again that there was a market for this potentially. And so what he eventually did, or did very soon, was he formed a company called Atari, and he created a very simple game called Pong. And with Pong, the idea was that, again, it was just two paddles going back and forth. You only had one controller, and so everybody could understand it, everybody could play it right away, and it was fun. In the original design of Pong, actually, the designer, Al Acorn, was kind of planning on making it more complicated, so you could swivel the little Pong paddles to get different shots and stuff, and Bushnell didn't want that, actually, because it can just keep it simple. So they created a test machine, and they debuted at the time this place called Andy Capp's Tavern, and the game proved to be an immediate hit. After a couple of weeks, they had to send Al Acorn back out to fix it, because the guy in the bar said that the machine wasn't working. And what had happened was the machine was getting so full of quarters that was actually interfering with the electronics in the machine. So right there, that kind of showed Nolan Bushnell that he had a hit, and boom, Atari was off and running, and so was really the modern video game industry as we know it today. And what this kind of shows you is how the market and the price system, with the help of entrepreneurs, forces them to be really creative and to take technology that people previously don't have access to and give it to the masses. So if only people with a technological bent had this technology, computer space may have stayed on the PDP-1 for years. But it took an entrepreneur and a capitalist like Nolan Bushnell to say, okay, let's find a way to make this thing cheaper, and then we can sell it, and then potentially everybody can enjoy it, or far more people can enjoy it than people who can afford a $120,000 computer. And that is how capitalism essentially created the video game industry, as it has created so many other industries. But I just thought I'd start with the video game industry. So, what do you think? Are you a fan of capitalism? Are you a fan of video games? Have I missed anything? Why or why not? Feel free to leave your comments below. And other than that, if you like this video, feel free to like and subscribe. And until next time.